Hi, it's Rob Bowron with Sharp College Football, and I'm excited. We've got week 2. I'm doing it the old-fashioned way. We're doing it Saturday morning. I used to do these on Saturday morning before moving them up a little bit. This should be a really fun week for college football this season, or just a really fun week for college football. There is still a little sparse out there as far as the games go, but there are some really good headline matchups, of course, led off by Texas at Alabama. But underneath it, there's some really good non-conference matchups we're going to cover this week that I think are going to help us sort out, where the conferences are going to fall this season. Of course, college football is not just connected by the direct matchups, as some people assert. There are sort of secondary connections that happen, and third-order connections as well. So teams that share common opponents in non-conference, teams that share common opponents in non-conference. All help us put together the web that makes up the college football season, that helps sort through the data that we end up generating. This week, as we cover through these, let me it's early and I haven't done these in the morning in a while for a reason, probably. Let me just sort of cover off what the Saturday 6 is. We're going to cover 6 games. I set myself a timer for 5 minutes. I do try to stick to it, but I actually rarely hit the 5 minutes. This is from an advanced stats perspective. All the stats you're going to see are going to come from Bowron, an advanced stat system for college football, built on the same data that's provided to the College Football Playoff Committee. Yeah, everything you see is going to control for at least opponent, field position, and tempo. Sometimes it'll control for more. That's far better than a points per game or yards per game approach. If you have any questions about Bowron, please let me know, and we'll head up at the end of this where you can find me. Yeah, let's go ahead and hop in. I mean, there's some. I don't know that there's a ton to cover off beyond just kind of getting into the games this week, because like I said, there are some really good matchups sort of behind the scenes, a lot of games that should be within one possession if teams relatively live up to what we expect and don't turn the ball over a couple times anyway. But it should be, like I said, a really, really good week for college football, as I said. So let's hop in. So the first matchup, of course, is Texas at Alabama. Steve Sarkisian is your Texas head coach. Nick Saban is the coach for Alabama. Alabama's offense, these are last season stats. We still don't have enough data to really trust what we have in for this season yet. But Alabama's offense last season, of course, you have a different offensive coordinator. Now we have Tommy Rees in place. Last season, they were good. They weren't great. They were a far cry from where they were back when Sarkisian was your offensive coordinator. I'm not sure where they're going to fall under Tommy Rees. My expectation is Rees is maybe not even as good as O'Brien, but we're going to find out. This should be a really good matchup to tell us a lot about where this Alabama offense is going to fall this year. They were number 6 overall in drive efficiency last season. They did a really good job putting together long drives to put up points. They were fairly explosive, number 7 overall there. Of course, these are all scaled to the number 1 offense in college football last season. That was Georgia. They were pretty good at play efficiency. It's the least important of the core 4 beta rank metrics. But it still doesn't matter. That's your yards per play outside of explosives. Negative drives, they did a decent job here avoiding 3 and outs, avoiding turnovers. It is what hurt them a little bit more, though. They definitely, if you look at where they could really improve here, the ones that would matter most, they can improve their drive efficiency. They were only roughly a little over 80% as effective as Georgia there. And they could improve on negative plays, like not giving up 3 and outs, not handing out turnovers. Not a huge run pass split. Number 10 in effective pass, number 17 in effective rush. Fairly balanced offense last year for Alabama. That's fine. You can skin college football. I think in the pros, it is a very pass happy game, and the game has opened up that way. Most very, very good college football offenses operate that way, but we have seen excellent offenses in college football still be able to rely on running the football. Texas's defense was very good last season, improved quite a bit. Pete Kwiatkowski is your defensive coordinator here. Number 7 overall in beta rank. Now, where they did, and this is not surprising for a Kwiatkowski defense, They did give up some long drives for points. This is something they could certainly improve on. But Kwiatkowski runs that too high safety look, designed to really contain explosives. That's what they did a good job at. They contain big plays. Number 4 overall, containing explosive drives. All of these numbers are scaled to the offensive numbers because it's an offensive game in college football these days. I want to give you a sense. If you faced up, as we are here, the number 7 offense against the number 7 defense from last season, the number 7 defense is still going to give up some points. That's just the world we live in these days. Number 6 in play efficiency, they did a decent job outside of explosives, limiting yards per play. Negative drives, number 21 here. They could do a better job forcing 3 and outs, forcing turnovers. They were really good against the run last year. Number 6 overall in effective rush, number 16 in effective pass. It'll be interesting to see where Texas sits this season, and what Alabama's able to do against them. This for me is one of the highlight matchups of the day. I think Kwiatkowski's got this Texas defense probably in the place where they're going to be in the top 10 regularly. This is going to tell us a lot about where Tommy Rees is as an offensive coordinator. Jalen Milroe, your new quarterback for Alabama, through a very small sample, 72% completion percentage, 10.8 per. Flipping around to the other side of the football, Texas offense is led by Steve Sarkisian, who's your play caller, of course. And they weren't as good last season. Number 11 overall in drive efficiency. They did a decent job putting together long drives to put up points. 14 in explosive drives. This is something they certainly need to improve on here. Their play efficiency, number 26 overall. Decent, but definitely needs improvement. Negative drives. This is what killed them. Too many 3 and outs, too many turnovers, lack of consistency in execution. 21 in effective rush, 26 in effective pass. Ewers wasn't great last year, and even with Bijan Robinson really helping him out, he had some really horrendous games down the backstretch. He's got a 63.3% completion percentage so far this year, 8.7 per. That's against Rice. You really need better numbers. I mean, especially against your only game being against Rice. New defensive coordinator in for Alabama, Kevin Steele. Pete Golding did a pretty good job last season, even though he was mostly underappreciated. Alabama's fall from championship contender status was more about the offense coming back to earth under Bill O'Brien. But they definitely tilted a little bit. Like Kwiatkowski's defense at Texas, they preferred to take away big plays. Number 37 overall in drive efficiency. You could put together drives against this Alabama defense to put up points, but they did a good job containing explosives. Number 1 in containing explosive drives. 8 in play efficiency overall. 11 in negative drives. They did a really good job forcing 3 and outs and turnovers. 15 in effective rush, number 6 in effective pass. It's going to be interesting to see what Texas tries to do here, and where Alabama sits, of course, because they always have a lot of turnover. They always have a lot of great players that they have prepped and developed and gotten ready to play as well. Kevin Steele, I think, is a really good defensive coordinator hire for Nick Saban. He got him out of Miami. Of course, he'd been at Auburn for a long time. This is going to tell us a lot about where Texas's ceiling is this season, and if Ewers is really the guy. My feeling is, Sark's probably going to have to play another quarterback if Ewers doesn't play well in this game. We've got Alabama favored has a 57% win probability at home and about 2.67. Maybe this isn't on your radar as a headline matchup for today, but this is a great matchup. So, Ole Miss is going to Tulane. A rare visit to a group of 5 stadium, especially one where the team is rolling like Tulane is right now. Willie Fritz is your Tulane head coach. Lane Kiffin, of course, is your Ole Miss head coach. Slade Nagel is your offensive coordinator for Tulane. Noted that he did call plays for them last season. New Pete Golding is your new defensive coordinator for Ole Miss. I think this is a really good hire for them. Didn't work out for him in Alabama, but still one of the better defensive coordinators in all of college football. Kiffin got in there and got him. They really need to improve this defense, as you can see with that top line number there. Offensively last season, Tulane was number 22 overall. That's a great number for a group of 5 team. 24 on drive efficiency. They did a pretty good job putting together long drives to put up points. A little less explosive, number 44 overall. Certainly something they could work on and improve. 9 in play efficiency, 19 in negative drives. They did a pretty good job avoiding 3 and outs and avoiding turnovers. They're going to need to avoid turnovers in this game in particular. 16 in effective rush, 44 in effective pass. They are going to look to run the ball. I think that's what Fritz and Nagel are going to look to do to start, but they do have an experienced quarterback back, Michael Pratt. in a very small sample. But against one of the other group of 5 teams that, often we talk about to keep an eye on, South Alabama. 93% completion percentage, 19.6 per. He wasn't asked to do a lot. They ran the ball pretty well. Defensively, Ole Miss was a bad Power 5 defense last season, hence the need to bring in a new DC. I grade Power 5 teams on a 1 to 65 for last season. I guess it's a 1 to 69 scale for this season. Drive efficiency, you could put together long drives to put up points. You could put together explosive drives. Number 50 are overall here. Number 26 in play efficiency. 45 in negative drives. They didn't do, among their numbers, it's one of their better numbers. Forcing 3 and outs, forcing turnovers. No big run pass split. They were pretty bad at both. I'm just interesting to see. I think Golding's going to, you should see a marked improvement in year 1 with the new DC in place. I don't know that he's going to get him into a top 25 defense, but if he can get him down into the 30s, and then I think potentially next season's the season that they could, make a move and get into the top 20. Defensively, you flip it over. Offensively, Charlie Weiss Jr. is your play caller here. Sheil Wood and Tulane had to make 2 good defensive coordinator hires this season because somebody hired Lance Guidry away. Last season, Ole Miss was a very explosive offense. They weren't as efficient. Number 50 overall in drive efficiency. That's certainly something they should look to improve on. It's fun to hit only home runs, but what really separates the very, very best offenses in college football from merely the very good isn't their ability to be explosive. It's their ability to be explosive and be efficient. Ole Miss could certainly look to improve here. Number 16 in play efficiency, decent yards per play outside of explosives. Number 9 in negative drives. They did a really good job here, avoiding 3 and outs, avoiding turnovers. Kiffin has switched, and you can look at his hires over the past couple seasons. They are a more run-heavy team than I think people would necessarily expect. Number 4, an effective rush versus number 55, an effective pass. What's interesting is when you are running the ball that much and you're running it that well, that you don't have better efficiency numbers. Usually teams like Army that run the ball well have excellent efficiency numbers. They're not terribly explosive. But flip it around, you have a fun, explosive run offense here. You couple that with an all right pass offense. They certainly have room for improvement here. Jackson Dart's your quarterback. Again, limited sample on all these QB stats. 78.3% completion percentage so far this season, 14.5 per. Defensively, this is a very good number again for a group of 5 team, 27 overall in beta rank. Now they traded it off like a lot of defenses are doing these days. Willing to give up some drive, willing to suffer on drive efficiency, lets you, try to use the field against you, give up some longer drives though. Number 15 overall in explosive drives. They did a much better job than in efficiency in limiting big plays. Where they can certainly improve is negative drives, 35 overall here, force more 3 and outs, force more turnovers. No big run pass split, but you'd certainly like to have that run number a little better going into facing a team that runs the ball as well as Ole Miss does when they're returning their OC and quarterback. We've got it as a toss-up for this game. This game should be a lot of fun. It is on ESPN2. It's not one of the headline games today, but if you're a real college football fan, and that sounds like a true Scotsman fallacy made apparent, but this is definitely a game you should find and watch, at least have on another screen. This will be one of the better matchups today. A lot of familiarity here, both on the quarterback and the defensive coordinator. The Texas Tech have both were very recently employed at the University of Oregon. I know you can quibble and say athletes aren't employees, but who were we kidding? Anyway, Dan Lanning, of course, is your head coach for Oregon. Joey McGuire is your head coach for Texas Tech. This should be a really, really, really fun matchup in Lubbock, in the middle of nowhere, on the surface of the moon. I've been to Lubbock. Oregon's offense last season, they have a new offensive coordinator in, of course, in Will Stein. This should be a really good matchup to get an idea of where this offense is under Stein. Of course, they keep the quarterback in place. Last season, they struggled a little bit with drive efficiency, putting together long drives to put up points, but they were a really explosive offense, one of the most explosive offenses in college football. If Oregon this season wants to get into that top 5, though, the number that's got to improve is drive efficiency. Lots of teams are good at it being explosive in college football. Not as many offenses, like we've talked about, are just good at efficiency as well. Sort of separates the very, very best. They did a decent job at negative drives, avoiding 3 and outs, avoiding turnovers. They had a good run pass split. They were 13 in effective pass, 23 in effective rush. That's a little bit of a flip from 2 seasons ago. They were definitely last season more pass heavy. Bo Nix did a terrific job stepping up. He sits at 85.2% for completion percentage in a very limited sample against Portland State, 10.6 per. Texas defense did a pretty good job last season, actually bouncing back. Tim DeRuyter is your defensive coordinator. He was quite recently the defensive coordinator at Oregon. Now they flip it. They did a really good job using the field to their advantage, getting off the field, not giving up long drives. Excellent at that, but they could give up big plays. That's what makes this game sort of well, maybe really interesting. We're going to see where Will Stein sits on the efficiency versus explosive scale. But you could definitely put up big plays against Texas Tech's defense last year. They're going to need to improve on negative drives as well. Force some 3 and outs, force some turnovers at a higher clip. No big run pass split here. 31 in effective rush, 34 in effective pass. Flip it over. I mean, of course, Texas Tech is coming off that loss at altitude to Wyoming, where everything looked like it was going right, and then suddenly everything went wrong after that first quarter. Now, offensively for Texas Tech, oh man, I forgot to write it down. What a goof. I have it right here, though. In a second. Zach Kitley's your offensive coordinator. They were 33 in effective in beta rank last season, 33 in drive efficiency. They definitely need to improve this number, get a little better at putting together long drives for points. 46 in explosives. Again, that's a number that has to get better if they're going to want to grade out better on offense. And the Big 12 is not going to be, it's not murderer's row, but it's not going to be a cakewalk this season either. Play efficiency is 52 overall, 39 on negative drives. They could certainly improve this number too, avoiding 3 and outs and avoiding turnovers. No big run pass split. Tyler Shucks, your quarterback, 66 completion percentage, 7.2 per. That's not bad. Wyoming's got a pretty salty defense under Craig Bull. I'm interested to see. Kitley's got more of an air raid background. I'm interested to see if they do throw the ball a bit more coming into the season. Oregon's defense this isn't right. Hold your horses. 1 second. Oregon's defense was not number 9 last season. Something did not get replaced right in setting this up. Oregon's defense was at 45 last season. Apologies for this. So the first one, right? All right, there we go. We're going to do this again because I'm a goof and I had the wrong digits in there. So Texas Tech offense is about the same over in the overall ranking, but they were really good at drive efficiency. They put together long drives to put up points. They struggled with explosives and they struggled with negative drives. Too many 3 and outs, too many turnovers, not enough big plays. They do have a decent run pad split because Zach Kitley is their offensive coordinator. In this case, though, this Oregon defense, Tosh LaPloy is your defensive coordinator. I don't know that he's necessarily cut out for the job in the long run, but he's a heck of a recruiter. Dan Lanning, of course, has his own defensive background as the head coach. You could put together long drives against Oregon to put up points. You could throw out big plays and put up points at them as well. They need to improve negative drives along the line too. They were pretty good against the run. They were horrible against the pass. That's going to make this matchup a little interesting. Let's see where Oregon's pass defense is coming into this year, because they struggled. They struggled in coverage. They struggled in pass rush. We've got this as Oregon with a 64% win probability and about 4.2 on the road. This game should be a lot of fun. We're going to find out a lot about Notre Dame's offense today. So Tommy Rees is, Marcus Freeman is your Notre Dame head coach. Dave Doran is the NC State head coach. In comes Jared Parker is your offensive coordinator for Notre Dame. Notre Dame has played two pretty bad, one FCS team, one usually pretty bad defense in Navy in college football. We're going to get to see, though, and these are last season's numbers, of course, because we don't have enough data for this season yet. Notre Dame's offense last season under Tommy Rees was pretty middle of the road, Power 5. 36 overall and all in drive efficiency. They did a decent job comparatively putting together long drives to put up points. They could certainly improve on explosives as well. 28 there, 34 on negative drives. They had a decent run pass split. They were at 18 in effective rush, 57 in effective pass. Now, Sam Hartman is now in place, and he's definitely a better quarterback than Notre Dame's had in a long time. He is at 82.5% completion percentage, 11.1 per. Again, they haven't really played anybody yet. This NC State defense under Tony Gibson was pretty good last year. Tony Gibson, I think, is one of the under the radar best defensive coordinators in college football. They did a good job at drive efficiency, 30 overall here. You could put together some long drives to put up points against them. Number 20 overall in explosive drives. They did a good job limiting big plays. 22 on negative drives. They help shine here. Forcing 3 and outs, forcing turnovers. No big run pass split. This is gonna, like I said, this is gonna tell us where this Notre Dame offense is. I'm not massively sold on Parker as the offensive coordinator. He wasn't great in his short stint in West Virginia. I thought it was a really interesting, odd, out of left field hire for Notre Dame, but it seems that they did just strike out on anybody else that they had attempted to hire outside of the staff, which is not where you want to be. But it's not like I think Alabama really wanted to hire Tommy Rees. You flip it around, holy moly, this NC State offense was awful last season, hence why you have a new offensive coordinator this season. Robert Anai is your new offensive coordinator. I think he's quite good. He's got a really good track record going back years and years, even before he was back in the ACC. And he's reunited with his quarterback from Virginia. They struggled at drive efficiency. This is a very, very bad Power 5 offense. Struggled to drive efficiency, struggled to put up big plays, number 92 overall there. 114 in negative drive, so many 3 and outs, so many turnovers. No big run pass split for NC State here. Brennan Armstrong is your quarterback here, 65% completion percentage, 6.0 per. That's per, the 6.0 per has to get better. NC State hasn't played a really tough opponent yet, of course. They've only played one game. They didn't shine in that game, let's put it that way. So they've definitely still got some things to figure out, and they're going to have to do it against the Irish. Notre Dame's defense wasn't good last year. Marcus Freeman, of course, is a defensive coach. I think he's one of the best defensive minds in all of college football as well, but they really struggled. Al Golden is your defensive coordinator here. 62 in drive efficiency. You could put together long drives to put up points against the Irish. 44 in explosive drives. You could get big plays against them too. 37 in negative drives. They did not force enough 3 and outs. They did not force enough turnovers. There's certainly room for improvement for them here. No big run pass split. I'm interested to see this year. Like this Notre Dame defense, I think in particular for the team also has to make significant progress, and for Marcus Freeman to save his job. Now we are talking about, I think NC State has the potential to be a pretty good team this year. I like both Anai and Gibson. So this is a good measuring stick for where these teams are, right? Look, the NC State didn't look like Notre Dame's looked great out of the gate. against very bad competition. We have one game for NC State, and they didn't look exceptional. This game's going to tell us quite a bit about where these teams are going to fall. And I think tell us about where, Notre Dame's ceiling really is going to be this year. As we talked about, this defense in particular has to make real progress. This 44 number is not going to work. They need to be in the top 20, I think, for Notre Dame to reach what they want and not get blown out by Ohio State in a couple weeks, even though Ohio State didn't look great in their first game either. The offense, though, also has to improve. They're going to have a pretty good test because I do think Gibson's defense, even if they do fall off a little bit, they're still going to be in the top 30. Certainly going to be the best unit Notre Dame's faced thus far. Tell us a lot about where Parker has this offense with Hartman. This should be a really fun one. Luke Fickell's your new head coach at Wisconsin. Jake Dickert is your head coach at Washington State. This is the return trip from Washington State visiting last season. I was at that game last season. That was it was not the prettiest football played. Your new offensive coordinator for Wisconsin is Phil Longo, formerly of North Carolina. Now the Phil Longo offense, these are of course last season stats, but the Phil Longo offense looked a little bit like that Ole Miss offense. It's all home runs and they run the ball pretty well. Even though Longo has an air raid background and has at times aired it out, his best North Carolina offenses often ran the ball really well, even when he had Drake May. Number 45 overall in drive efficiency last year for Wisconsin. That certainly got to improve. 59 in explosive drives. They struggled to put up big plays last year. That's going to change, of course. I expect this explosive drive number to be really high with Longo. 52 in play efficiency. He sort of runs the all home runs offense. 52 in play efficiency, 64 in negative drives. They really struggled putting too many 3-and-outs, too many turnovers last season. Big run pass split, 26 in effective rush, 85 in effective pass. I expect them to still have a pretty sizable run pass split this season. They ran the ball a ton against their first opponent. And it wouldn't surprise me one bit that they're not going to rely on Tanner Mordecai's arm. He had a 77% completion percentage, 6.1 per. Not the greatest opponent early on, but it'll be fun to see them against a decent Washington State defense here. This is a pretty good defense for Washington State standards. It's really hard to put together a really good defense up there in the Palouse. 35 overall in beta rank. Jake Dickert is the head coach, of course, has a defensive mind himself. Jeff Schmetting is the defensive coordinator here. 14 overall in drive efficiency. They used the field to their advantage last season, found a way to get off the field and not give up points, but they did give up big plays. 62 overall in explosive drives. That's something to keep an eye on when you're playing Phil Longo offense. Are they going to give up big plays? 79 in play efficiency. This one will come into because as much as Wisconsin's going to run the ball, you're going to want to limit your yards per play, even outside of explosives. Now, they did a really good job at negative drives, forcing 3-and-outs, forcing turnovers. Decent run pass split here, I guess, by what you'd want coming into this game playing Wisconsin. You're definitely going to want to be able to control the run game as much as you can in this game. Flip it around. You got a new offensive coordinator in for Washington State, Ben Arbuckle. Who they really have to clean up what they were doing. And early on in that game against Colorado State, it didn't look like they had. It looked like Cam Ward was still struggling. He put it together, though, over the back half of that game, had a really good game against a horrible, horrible opponent in Colorado State. 46 overall in drive efficiency last season. Look, this Washington State offense needs to improve a lot. This will be a fun matchup to see how much they get. 67 in explosive drives. They struggled to put together big plays. 95 in play efficiency. They didn't get much in the yards per play outside of explosives. Too many 3-and-outs, too many turnovers. Often Cam Ward looked lost last season in FBS football. 87 in effective rush versus 37 in effective pass. They did throw the ball quite a bit more than they ran it last year. You should expect to see that again with Arbuckle as your OC. Cam Ward in one game, 75.5% completion percentage, 9.2 per. Wisconsin's defense didn't fall completely off the map last season, but they definitely were used to being in the top 10 under Jim Leonard. 60 overall in drive efficiency. You could put together long drives to put up points against them last year. Now, they did a better job at containing big plays, number 22 overall here. And they did a very good job at forcing 3-and-outs and forcing turnovers, that number 12 in negative drives. Now, they've got a new defensive coordinator in too that has come with Luke Fickell, Mike Tressel. The name should sound familiar for a reason. But this defense, I do expect to improve off of where they were last year at number 24 overall. I don't necessarily expect them to get back into the top 10 right away. Maybe getting back into the teens, I think, is a pretty good projection, I think, coming into this season. Now, they did have a pretty good run-pass split, 18 in effective rush, 40 in effective pass. They're going to need that pass number to be better because I do think Ward is a little better, and Arbuckle is certainly an improvement over what Washington State was running out as offensive coordinator last year. I think I forgot to mention as I get down here, we have Notre Dame at 73% win probability and about 6.88 as the favorite. Wisconsin, we've got it at a 57% win probability on the road and about 2 points, 1.99. Let's go ahead and hop over to the last one. It's a bit of a deep cut, but this is a good non-conference matchup. It's going to help tell us a lot about both these teams, and as these teams get into conference play, how we sort out conference play. You have Zach Arnett as your new head coach at Mississippi State, of course, after the unfortunate passing of Mike Leach. Jed Fish is your he's your offensive coordinator too, but he is also your head coach for Arizona. Mississippi State's offense struggled a bit last season, 41 overall in beta rank, 74 in drive efficiency. They really struggled to put together long drives to put up points. Now, they were better at explosives, number 26 overall. You have a new offensive coordinator in place here. Kevin Barbay is your new OC. You should not expect, these numbers are going to be quite a bit different than what we saw last year under Leach, of course. Barbay is running a more balanced offense. But they need to clean up. They need to put up more big plays. They need to, in particular, be a far more efficient offense. Their play efficiency number is not great. Yards per play outside of explosive, they could certainly improve. Too many 3-and-outs, too many turnovers. Negative drives number of 33. Now, again, you expect this run pass split to change quite a bit. They are going to run the ball quite a bit more than they did under Leach. Will Rogers is still your quarterback, 69% completion percentage, 7.8 per. Arizona's defense was horrible last year. 115 overall in beta rank, one of the worst Power 5 defenses in all of college football. Johnny Nanson's your defensive coordinator, and still what I think is one of the strangest defensive coordinator hires anyone has made in major college football in the last couple seasons. 111 in drive efficiency overall. You could put together long drives against this Arizona defense. 113 in explosive drives. You could put up big plays against this Arizona defense. They did slightly better at negative drives, forcing 3-and-outs, forcing turnovers. They really struggled to defend the run last season. 116 overall on effective rush, 94 in effective pass. Listen, Arizona's got nearly a whole new defensive front in place. I don't know that that's going to be enough to make them. I mean, Arizona's goal is to get into this 70-ish. Still be a very bad Power 5 defense, but not this glaringly bad in this game. But it'll be interesting. I mean, I think Mississippi State, barring turnovers, is going to put up a lot of points in this game. The question, and I think the interesting matchup is here. Arizona improved a ton last season on offense, and you should project them to improve again coming into this year. 33 overall offensively. Jed Fish is your play caller here. Matt Brock is your defensive coordinator from Mississippi State. Arizona struggled to put together drives and string together plays to put up points. That is consistency and play calling, something they certainly have to improve. 10 overall in explosive drives. They did a really good job. This is a really explosive offense last season. Even without Dorian Singer this year, they still have a really good wide receiver core and a really good running back core. The offensive line can get thin at points, but it should be improved over where they were last season. And of course, the Jaden DeLauro roller coaster ride. 21 in negative drives. They could improve this number as well, avoiding 3-and-outs, avoiding turnovers. The main thing they have to improve on is their drive efficiency, though. They have to get better at sustaining drives, getting them into the end zone for points. 14 in effective pass versus 83 in effective rush. That's a good size run pass split. I do expect them to run the ball a bit more than they did last season. They tend to run the ball more effectively. They did a decent job. Again, like a lot of defenses have made this choice to trade efficiency to contain explosives. They were 35 overall in drive efficiency last season. This is certainly a number that they could improve. They did a good job, number 13 overall in containing big plays. Their play efficiency number 10 overall. Outside of explosive, their yards per play was pretty good. They were excellent at forcing 3-and-outs, forcing turnovers. That's an interesting one to keep an eye on because Delora can be a little bit turnover prone. We should say that he was 75% completion percentage, 11.9 per against NAU. He did have an interception in that game as well as, should have been a pick. Delora can make significant mistakes. It will be interesting to see against this very opportunistic Mississippi State defense, which will be looking to confuse you. Zach Arnett is out of that Rocky Long 3.35. Going to be interesting to see here. They were 20 in effective rush versus number 8 in effective pass. This should be the fun side of the matchup to see where these two units, I think, stack out. Like I said, I think Arizona should be improved off of where they were last year. Mississippi State, I think it's reasonable to project them to stay somewhere around in this range and either fall off too much or maybe improve too much off, I think, of this number 10 overall number. Should be a lot of fun. We got Mississippi State at 74% at home win probability and about 7.5. Again, this is kind of a sneaky good game amongst a day of really good games in college football. That's it. Thank you for tuning in for the Saturday 6. We're going to wrap this up. We didn't do too bad on time, minus that dumb, I have the wrong matchups for that Oregon game. But there's some really, really good games today. Hit me up if you have any questions. I'll be on and off. I'll be watching the games on and off Twitter, I guess you could say. You can find me. You can find all the stats you saw and a whole lot more at sharpcollegefootball.com. I'm Rob Bowron, the econometrician behind BetaRank. You can find me at BetaRank FB and at Sharp College Football. We have a Pac-12 podcast at 12 Pack Radio. You can find all the back episodes of that at sharpcollegefootball.com/12 Pack Radio. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll hopefully have this back out on Monday this coming week rather than Saturday morning. But I was traveling. I was in LA for work all week. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in and